Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh, yeah! Welcome out, y'all. This is the Remix Morning Show. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. This is Black Liberation Media, and we are here to bring you that boom bap breakfast right here for yours truly. Now, it is time to get it on and poppin'. Let me introduce you to your host with the most straight from the East Coast, Brook 9 BK. Where you at all day? Kamal K. Franklin.
What's happening? I love that beat. That was hot, yo.
Hey, that's a little bit of Anthony David right there, mixed with Algebra and Fonte.
You know what I'm saying? I like that reverb too. You said the name Anthony. Right off the bat, I want to get into it. I want to get into it on something.
Okay.
All right. So we had a little chat issues yesterday.
Oh, shit, damn. I love it. Let's start off with violence. Listen, NY, NJ in here today. Let's go.
So my man, yeah, I am in St. Louis for the third fucking time this year. And St. Louis is okay, but I'm not sure why I need to be here three times in 1 year. So basically I'm at a conference speaking on some panel, and this is obviously in a serious note, this is the 10th anniversary of Mike Brown being gunned down. So a lot of conferences, left liberal type conferences, have decided that they're going to do things in St. Louis. But it's for no good reason, because they're just like downtown in the hotels. It's not like they're up in the hood doing something with the family or whatever. But you know how people think they're doing things? I'm not going to say what conference, I'm not going to do all that. But it's like the third time. I was like, I don't understand. Like, so what's happening?
It's a powwow. It's a meetup now. It ain't really a.
I don't feel like it's honoring, like when you downtown at the hotels, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know what else folks are. Maybe they are doing other things. I doubt it, but maybe they are.
What if you come into town and your hotel's in the hood? You feel like, okay, now we doing something. I mean,
it ain't got to be like the hotels in the hood, but there should be everybody. The conference is doing something special to commemorate Mike Brown, or we're going down to the neighborhood, to the community, to talk to the folks, so they can actually rail on a lot of people who came down. The term swooping in, did a lot of stuff, left out, and then never came back again. In fact, I heard that at the 10th year anniversary that the community had a commemoration, that there were no national organizations who came, right? And so I do feel like there's been a sense of abandonment or a sense of whatever left behind. And again, doing a conference in the city is not necessarily enough. But, I didn't schedule it, but I did show up. Yeah. Okay. So back to the chat.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, and most of it is like for the chat. Let me help you, chat. So your role is to have discussion and debate. It's okay. I mean, it's not good to be disrespectful, of course. But
or then we get you up out of here. Most of the time, only time we ban or get anybody out of here is they come in with trying to sell stuff or
or they're doing some crazy religious thing, or they just calling people out their name kind of thing. Now, my man Anthony was a longtime member of the chat, and so apparently, what's my man's name? Joshua, who I love. Me and Joshua, So I keep going. I keep switching up stories. So there's no ill will between me and Josh. Josh has a perfect right to not, like Chomsky or say whatever. I didn't take that personally. I was joking back or whatever, back and forth with him. And he texted me, emailed me after. It's like, oh, we all, it's like we all good. It's like there's no problem. But my problem is, so Anthony said, I think we brought up the fact that Tyson was convicted of rape. Anthony said basically that he didn't think that he thought he was railroaded or he was innocent, right? Now, it's an unpopular opinion. It's probably not based in fact.
Yeah.
It's probably something that most of us don't agree with. But should he be saying it? Of course he can say it. And then people can argue back and debate it and say where they feel. Anthony did not say, I support rapists or I support rape. Anthony said he thought one particular person was not guilty of innocent. So and there's a lot of black folks in the community who think that.
Yeah.
So
Michael Jackson, whole same thing with him. I mean,
I personally think Michael Jackson, was somewhat of a molester at times.
And you got that right.
But most other people don't agree with me. In fact, people on the platform. But should I be?
Let's not talk about the vax, but continue.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? The vax. You said, oh God, okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, why is it different then?
Well, there's some things that are not science.
Let's continue.
Okay. We'll come back to the vax. We'll come back to the vax.
Yeah, because I'm perfectly healthy over here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it seems a little fast to be deciding that someone who's been. Thank you, Leah, for telling me to stay focused. I agree. My ADHD is kicking in. So it seems a little fast to knock somebody out the box who've been around with us for like 3 years, saying all kinds of things. And again, many people do disagree with, but it's not a uniform chat. Everybody's not going to have the same opinion, politically speaking. And there should be a place where people can have the discussion and debate and be, relatively speaking, respectful to each other. So we had a talk like afterwards, and we decided, I'm not sure we know how to reach out to Anthony, but that we would undo the block, and if Anthony wanted to come back, he could.
Come on,
at least
Anthony.
for our show. You know what I'm saying? Come on in. So somebody put the word out to Anthony. Y'all put the horn. Tell him we think his opinions are trash, but he has a right to express those trash opinions.
There it is.
If he wanted to and then y'all have a right to debate them.
Yeah.
And discuss it and whatever. Be respectful. That kind of thing.
We don't want the other people coming in the chat feeling like this is a whole cult thing. If they don't agree with you, then you get banned and nah, we're not doing that. This is here to exchange thoughts and different perspectives. So that's what we're here to do.
Within a particular range. So let's be clear about that too. And let's go back to Ear Doctor's Vax comment.
Now,
there's some things that are just not factual at all. And then that can be, you can pile on. But it's not like the Ear Doctor has been banned.
Not at all.
Although most of us disagree with him.
Yeah, and that's like you still going to get your boosters. You went and got your boosters, right?
No, actually, I only do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not that. I'm not.
Well, yeah. Let's not even go down that road. But
I'm not on it like that. I'm not on it like that.
Y'all some funny style.
I'm not on it like that.
Oh no.
You know what? Because this part of what you said, I've always agreed. Like it was like it rolled out real fast. So that was the part for me. It's like they rolled this shit out real fast. But do I think, in general, I'm not opposed to vaccines. I think there's scientific evidence that shows decreased levels of polio and other things based on the usage thereof. Now, does it mean we know everything and anything and that some things can't cause harm? But,
I know who never disagrees with me. Erica Kane.
Erica. I put some more verb on her name.
Oh, okay. Not bad.
How you doing?
Nah, Aaliyah song.
Oh, I don't know that song.
It's Erica Kane.
Oh, I don't know it at all. I know who Erica Kane from All My Children, right? Yeah. I used to watch that.
Named after.
Oh, so wait a minute, that is your government name.
Yeah, that's what.
Your mama named you after All My Children character?
And Ryan's Hope, yes.
Oh, hilarious. That is true devotion.
Very West Indian.
That is true devotion.
Or else her name would have been Nadine. That's one of the biggest Caribbean names I know. Nadine.
Well, I would have had an N in my middle name.
Or Arrow.
Is that really a thing though? Like after character, like TV characters or like famous, like favorite shows, like parents would name. I know it's true in general, but like in what that's the thing about a word.
Yeah, and then my goddaughters, Jade is from a cartoon that we used to watch. Some of those names come from characters. My son's name is from Zion Train.
So did y'all know that in some cultures, maybe African, that we would pick our name as a destiny, have a purpose, a meaning to it, and now we've got Americanized. We picking names off of TV shows. It's crazy, right?
You judging my mother, ear doctor? Is that where we going with this?
No, I'm
Okay.
just saying how far we've gotten from our culture. Like
Well,
nowadays, when we start getting knowledge itself, that's when we pick a name and be
Knowledge
like,
is
all right,
self. I
yeah,
like
I
it.
we pick a name and be like, okay, this is the name I'm going towards. Like my name, Unaka. I picked it. West African means to enlighten. I wanted to be a light
Wait a
to
minute, that's not.
enlighten.
Oh, that's right. That's not your government name. That's right.
Nah, come on, son.
Yeah,
Please,
I forgot.
got
No, for a second, I've known you. Then I have to go back in my memory. Go like, oh no, that's not his government name.
Yeah, nah. Only when you pay the checks, that's when you get to use that. But yeah. So you never picked up another name. Well, I know you did come out. I know that
Oh
ain't
yeah,
your government. You picked that name because
me.
yeah.
I'm like,
Oh no, my name was chosen for me. Like I
Okay.
was in Malcolm X grassroots movement. Part of the tradition, the New African tradition, is to choose new African names when they decide that you're ready and you want to do it. And I think I've told like so Kamal Ade Abiodun is my complete new African name. Kamal Kenyan Quiet Warrior Ade Nigerian and Abiodun also Nigerian and Ade is kingly. Abiodun is born during time of festival or strife. Abiodun was also taken because I was really close to me and my very close comrade. We took the same last name because we were very close to Nahanda Abiodun, who was a political exile in Cuba.
Mm-hmm. So now you have to live up to your name. Then that's where
Which
the
I
phrase
do
comes
every
from.
day.
That's
Every
what I'm
day,
saying.
son.
That's where the
Every
phrase
day.
comes from. Live up to your name.
Every day.
I
You
think I
got that?
mine.
Yeah, you definitely live up to Erica. You definitely.
Just drama. Drama. She bring the
I
drama,
don't
y'all.
be in it.
You bring it though.
I don't be in the drama.
You ain't
You know my
disagree
name.
without you bringing it though.
You don't
Never?
have my name.
How did you get Ricky? So how'd you get Ricky Ryan, if I may
That
ask?
came from that came from my Morgan years. I say that loosely because technically I was a student at Morgan, but was I at Morgan? So the people I was hanging around were not students, and that's where the name came from. There was like I think 2 Ericas.
Oh.
So it was just like, yeah, you're gonna be Ricky.
And you know what? I was just thinking the other day. Somebody asked me about if I would have stayed in Jersey. I think I would have been more monetarily straight because my parents had so many connections. Like my pops was the man in Trenton. You know what I'm saying? One of his best friends, David Dinkins. They did a bunch of stuff for community, business owner, a bunch of stuff. So I had connections. I even went to this place called Granville Academy where they taught you finances and stuff like that when I was like in the 8th, 9th grade. So moving down south, I became more culturally. I think I wouldn't have been as more culturally aware if I didn't move down south than if I stayed up north. Do you think you'd have been the same person if you stayed up north there, Kamal?
Yeah, I was already fully developed in terms of who I am by the time I moved to the South. I was already in my 40s.
So what was this in the 60s?
Oh, see, I had so many ins 30 seconds ago, and I
I
bit
know
my
because the
tongue.
way he segued that, I was like, we
Yeah.
off the names? Okay, well.
I bit my tongue. Bit it. He gave me so many openings. I was like, he's telling a
finance. It was there. It was.
I know it was.
It was there. It was an opening. But I listened.
You listened.
I did
Thank
too.
you.
He was so
Appreciate it.
earnest. It was sounded so earnest at the beginning. I didn't know he was leading me down a troubled path. Like the Pied Piper. This motherfucker's the Pied Piper.
Nah, I'm just saying the South made me I feel like a different person. I'm more cultural, definitely. Because it wasn't culture like that in Jersey. You around Italians, Puerto Ricans.
What do you mean more cultural?
You lived in Jersey in the early 90s, right? I sent you that picture.
80s to the 90s. Yeah. What picture?
So like up top was like cultural nationalists in the late 80s, early 90s. Like all of that African garb and I sent him a picture when I think I was in 3rd grade and we did the African fashion show.
Mm-hmm. But
is that going to be put up? Can I see the picture? Where's the picture? Is that for public display?
It can be. It's on my Instagram. It's not no big deal.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'll find it.
I've been deleted it. But yeah. Nah, I would just say as in Jersey, it wasn't. I mean, I went to schools with white people.
Oh, because you went for financial literacy. True.
No, this Granville was actually an all black academy for kids. Yeah.
So how you end up going to school with white folks in Jersey? Because where your
I
parents
went
live?
to Catholic school.
What is this,
Catholic
get
school.
Catholic school. Oh yeah.
Catholic school.
Yeah.
Sacred Heart, but that was black and Puerto Rican.
So where did you go to school with white people?
My ninth grade at Notre Dame. Yes, I went to a school called Notre Dame in ninth grade, and then after that, I moved down south.
So 1 year?
And you got cultural.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get cultural really till I got to Atlanta. I was more of a
What do you
roughneck.
mean you got cultural? Do you
I
mean
was
like
more
you
of
got
a-
into black culture? You got
Yeah,
into
black
like,
culture.
Okay.
Yeah, more having time to learn about being around people that study different things other than the Bible. You know, because at that time, you know, huh?
I was going to ask, do you think the way that you grew up, like with your parents being business minded, church minded, they were not? Are you saying like they were not?
They was Black Power. They was the first ones to do Martin Luther King birthday breakfasts before they even had the holiday. All that they did that, but yeah, I probably would still been going to church, going to this school, hanging around. Yeah, I don't know, because I moved down south, and that's when my mom passed, and then my pops passed, and then I was like, all right, well, we going to Atlanta, and then Atlanta was like, bam, okay, blackness, and I was like, that's where the fuck I'm staying at.
Wasn't you in Tennessee too for a bit?
No, Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Montgomery, Alabama. So culture shock. I moved to Panama City, Florida, then
Lord.
to Montgomery, Alabama, then to Atlanta. So
I be listening, and Doctor, you peep that?
I don't even know that. You gotta tell me that. You gotta tell me that story every like 6 months.
But you only make Kamal breakfast. I just want to highlight that. I actually listen to you, but Kamal gets the breakfast.
We had a special night before. So.
Bitch, excuse me. Excuse me. Yo, Ricky, next time we have a my bad, Jersey came out.
Memory.
Lost that culture real quick, eh?
Yeah, but next time, Ricky, I got you, man. Y'all just gotta stay around for the morning time. Y'all didn't, so you know. Anyway, so what we got going on today? I gotta
no
leave.
news.
I
gotta leave at 9:30.
Yes, I have a meeting, as you see my shirt, my business shirt.
That's your business.
That's your little nigga.
And when I leave, this is when
Watch out now.
when the top button closes. When the top button closes, oh, it's all biz.
Are you gonna tuck it in?
Biz.
You gonna tuck it in?
Oh no. That fuck up the fit.
Oh, my bad. But that's the business shirt.
No slacks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you got slacks on?
No, I got some nice jeans, nice denim.
Nice jeans. See, this is business today. It's like
Yeah. My business, like type of shit I do. So you get to wear when you're an entertainer. You get to wear what the fuck you want to wear. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I peeped that because that sounded like the club in 2001.
Back when Jay-Z said, "Take off the jerseys, button up."
2001.
I can't with y'all. I can't. All right. So you got some news, Ricky? I know you do.
You got news, Ricky? Good. I'll look.
What does that say? Let's get a zoom in this. Oh, look at you! You got you.
Y'all got a cup.
Hold up.
Oh, snap!
Oh wow! Damn!
Wow.
Oh damn! I got
what year is this, y'all?
I know they finally got some swag.
Listen.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Oh, by the way.
Oh, what's up?
I've mentioned it a few times in the chat that I got pulled over for a brake light. And Latif, my handyman and mechanic, he came and fixed my brake light. And Latif showed up, and he had redesigned the hoodie, and it was dope. So he did some acrylic paint. It's
the black liberation media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the background is like red, black, and green.
Yeah, he was showing me. He sent me pictures. He's
it was dope. And I said, well, shit, that's acrylic. How we gonna remake that?
Yeah.
But it
So
was a dope little logo.
I just bought a print hot press, so I'm able to do shirts and stuff too now. So about to start doing some things.
That's gonna be another side business.
I like to make money. Is that a problem?
Yeah, you're not that good at it though.
I mean, I'm doing all right.
I don't know.
Fake background. What the fuck are you talking about? It's a fake. What are you looking around? What's your fake background?
Wait a minute. The disrespect here. All right. Let me take the green screen down. All right, now we here.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm doing all right. You know what I'm saying? Fire's firing. So
Okay.
All right. I guess I'll go into our first break here. Shit, what am I gonna do? Y'all got anything to say before? Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's get it. First break right here on no other than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Don't stop. That's effects with the real hip hop.
Welcome to my beautiful estate right here in Georgia, GA. As you can see, it is a nice, almost winter day. It is winter, damn it. We had winter solstice like the 21st, or we didn't get there. We still in fall? I don't know. Anyway, welcome out. Hit that like button, please. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there. Get footage that's rare, and also go to the bottom of the screen if you haven't seen, and you can go to blkliberationmedia.org. Now, why do you want to donate? Because you want to continue to see this thing going on. So, donate, and we will make sure that I ain't got to keep getting side hustles. You know what I'm saying? To pay these bills. All right, anyway, let's get right to it. I wanted to take you to a show I watched the other day, and it was dealing with real talk. As you know, Dr. Sudiata. And yes, he was talking to another doctor about racism in Boston. Let's see what they had to say about that.
I know a lot of the older generations used to talk about people who could pass for white getting angry with that white people would get angry when they
discovered
that they were being deceived or somehow. And so I don't think it's anything more than that, but that can produce a certain response that is very peculiar. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all at once confusion, but also feeling of betrayal or something like that. Yeah. How could you be? Why do you identify as black? I mean, I think it's basically what they're saying to me.
You should be with us.
Yeah. Why would you want to cast your lot with that? You look white enough. You could jump over. I think you could jump over, man. You know.
Well, in Boston, the whites are getting mad because light-skinned blacks aren't picking sides. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine being in Boston for all the racism I hear goes on in there. But then I hear some black spots, like spots, literally. All right. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Make sure y'all check out that episode of Real Talk with Dr. Sudiata right here on Black Liberation Media. All right.
From the Jordan, the jabber jipper when I get stoned like Sharon from Slipper.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. That dude's not black though.
Nah, he's Latino.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was just
he identifies as black, but he so looks, you know.
Does he?
That was the whole point of the conversation. Did you not listen to the clip?
No, he was talking about somebody else. Wasn't he? I thought he was talking about somebody else. He's talking about somebody else that was identified as being white instead of black. That's what he was talking about. Oh, you didn't see the clip. You didn't watch.
I just sat here and watched the clip. It was. I think it was.
You think?
I'm almost sure. You're making me doubt slightly.
Almost sure. Those are key words right there you're using.
Yeah, see, that's how people see, and that's how you win arguments, by making other people doubt the logical facts that are right in front of them. That dude was obviously talking about himself. And now you, because you didn't listen to the clip you showed, are now casting doubt. Like you're gaslighting me. That's what it's called. You're gaslighting me.
Listen, and you see it over there, right? Like
You got a new word, gaslighting.
I'm
Good for
doing?
you. Yes, Leah, I didn't watch the whole interview, but I did watch that part.
It picked up no context clues.
Well, anyway, that's wild though, right? Like, have you
I
you
don't know
really
anything about that.
okay? Yeah,
I've never been
I'm not.
mistaken for anything other than
You're right.
black.
Yeah. Okay.
It's never happened.
Okay, well, just gonna leave that one.
See, I played that thinking that. Never mind. All right, let's. I'll catch you on next break.
Leaving that right there.
Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing.
You doing good? You doing good?
Yeah, well, Zion is home.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a cough, and then he said, "Oh man, I definitely can't go to school."
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Mm-mm. Not one. Temperature's fine. He's been on the switch since he woke up, but he definitely can't go. So I let him stay home because he had a good week. You know, we debuted his film, and then on Saturday morning was the end of his cross country season. He's in a running club. So he ran a 5K in 28 minutes.
Oh, good for him. Oh, wow. That is fantastic. So you did have a good week. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. So he could take a day.
But I'm sure he's going to be in that room every 5 seconds. So.
Oh, well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. You know, I gave him everything he needs. So hopefully that sustains us at least quarter to 10.
Quarter to 10. That'd be good. Okay. You want to slap the map? Want to roll that map out and let's get some news going, y'all?
Yeah.
Good evening. I was going to say good morning. Good morning. I'm a little out of sorts because I'm like in this hotel room. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Remix Morning Show. How y'all doing? Black Liberation Media. We are so glad to have y'all join us. Erica Kane, the one and only, bat here. You know what I'm saying? Bringing the knowledge, the smarts. You can't say you can't objectify anymore. So I'm not going to say the beauty, the knowledge, the smarts, but people don't like to. You can't.
No, I accept it.
You accept it? Okay. The beauty, the knowledge, the smarts. Kamal K. Franklin dragging us down as always, trying to hold it together in this weird ass hotel. But thank y'all for joining us. We're already 343 strong. Press that like button. Y'all know where y'all can go. Patreon. We have basically doubled our Patreon thanks to a wonderful donor who's given. I'm still a little doubtful that money's going to come through, but it looks like it's for real. So if that is true, we've literally doubled our Patreon. We thank that person so much. Don't know if they want to remain nameless or not. And thank y'all for going to Patreon, looking at all the new content that's always constantly now being put up there to help support the channel. You can also go to Black Liberation at our website, and you can donate there if you don't need all the Patreon stuff, but you want to just give support. So yeah, thank y'all so much. Appreciate it.
Come on, where are you?
I am in St. Louis. I was discussing earlier that this is my third conference this year in St. Louis, and I think some of it is based on the fact that Mike Brown, this is the 10th anniversary of Mike Brown being murdered. And so folks who are liberal left are doing conferences in St. Louis as if that somehow honors him. But I'll leave that alone because I just talked about it.
Liberal left. All right. Well, I have a story.
I got it pulled.
Yeah, because there is, what's going to happen, kind of panic going on. But I think there needs to be a little bit of concern about what actually is happening before Trump comes into office. Biden recently allowed Ukraine to use U.S. arms to strike inside of Russia. So the Biden administration lifted the ban on Ukraine being able to use U.S. weapons directly in Russia. And since that ban has been lifted, I believe yesterday or possibly the day before, they actually hit Russia. And this causes a lot of issues. Obviously, it's international law violations, of course, but then it also allows for Russia to have the right to respond, and what that can and what that will and won't mean with Trump coming into office. So I think that this is something that I have not heard much about it on MSNBC. What they are talking about is the nonprofit, the bill that now has been voted down at the House, but it's going to be pushed again, I believe, today or tomorrow, right back with 52 Democrats in full support. But they have not talked about these kind of catastrophic moves that the Biden administration is making on the way out, in addition to things that they could be doing, like codifying Roe. And this is also, I believe it was reported that they're trying to rush out 76 billion, I believe, of the rest of the money before Trump comes into office, because they fear that he will no longer fund a good amount of these wars. So on the way out, they are strategically setting up the Trump administration to have to deal with potential global catastrophes.
Yeah, and I think Russia already lowered what it called its nuclear response and has said that any nation that supplies weapons to hit Russia is also potentially a target for retaliation. And so whether or not, it's sort of with the, rattling the saber or whatever like that, and they're not really going to do it. We don't know. Like I tend to doubt, of course, that it's going to be that extreme, but every new step that America takes to again, even in our estimation, or my estimation, the whole Ukraine war is based on NATO's attempt to make Ukraine a NATO nation, and again push right up to the borders of Russia, even though it's been warned time and time again not to do this, and what it would cause if they did this. And so the United States and Western Europe seem able or willing and wanting to fight to the last Ukrainian life in order to destabilize Russia, to hurt Russia, to put Russia back in its place. And then these wars, which are fought, with other people's human life, and then they can create this narrative that, of course, Russia is an invader, but not talking about what are the things that led up to that invasion in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
and what were the and talks and warnings given time and time again around what would happen if they continue to pursue this path. And you're right. Like, so right now, Biden is giving every sort of red light he's bypassing, and supplying more weapons, more resources, and under their fear, the Democrats' fear, that Trump is going to pull back and attempt to do something which is going to end the war, which is an amazing turnaround, right? Is that you have the war party being overtly, and I think the Democrats have not always been a war party, but overtly being a war party, not depending on so-called diplomacy, but supplying weapon after weapon, resource after resource for Ukraine, and obviously in Israel, for these wars to continue and to expand.
Mm-hmm. And this is about the legitimacy of Western hegemony and keeping it, maintaining it, because there is, it happens to be all of these breaks in multiple areas of the world where people are moving away. I mean, when we talk about BRICS as an institution, but then, the Shanghai Cooperative, the Belt and Road Initiative, there's plethora of avenues and alternatives that people are looking into, nations are looking into, that's moving away from the U.S. And this is the U.S.'s desperate attempt to keep and maintain hegemony. The Ukrainian war, we have always maintained that it is a proxy war. The legitimacy of this war has never, even when Andrea Merkel, when she leaves, she talks about a lot of those treaties were not real, right? They were forcing those meetings so that they could still in the background arm Ukraine. So they were setting that up. Also, the way that the invasion, right, quote unquote, is even discussed removes the fact that under the UN Charter, Russia could do that because they kept moving closer and closer and closer, right? And I've always maintained the way that we discuss the Ukrainian proxy war really has to do a lot with how we even understand self-determination and defense of sovereignty within ourselves, right? At what point do we begin to fight back, right? And so then, as we've seen these things inch closer and closer and closer, so I've always told people to be mindful of the way that they discuss that quote-unquote invasion because of the dynamics that preceded it and why it happened. But then also what has happened afterwards. Even as we talk about the repression that's occurring under what's happening with support of the pro-Palestinian movement, there's not any discussion about what has happened to media outlets and organizations in 2021 and 2022 who took an oppositional stance to the mainstream narrative of this proxy war, right? People have been removed and outlets have not been returned, right? So that was a setup for what we're seeing now. And those are things that are under discussed because the Uhuru conspiracy trial has nothing to do with Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that these are important notes, but I say that to say that I am not the solution. I do not think that Trump is an isolationist. I do not think that Trump is anti-war. I think that Trump is an opportunist. And because Trump is an opportunist, that allows for certain opportunities that people can take advantage of, right? If they are in a position to take advantage of those opportunities. Hence, if he is deciding that he does not want to fund NATO, what does that look like for those who oppose NATO? So those are questions strategically that people should think about. But I think in terms of how the language and the narrative is being set up for, oh my God, when Trump comes into office, this is going to happen. And there's not any kind of real view of what is happening in the lead up to Trump coming into office. And even to your point about the Democratic Party being this overtly warmongering party, we've seen that from the DNC from Biden. It was entirely warmongers. And the entire Biden administration and presidency in these last 4 years has been engagement of war after war after war, consistently.
Mm-hmm. And pushing itself closer to being identified as the party of the military.
Yes.
In terms of the Democrats who always want to seem or have taken up the mantle of attempting to look patriotic. They don't want to be seen as the anti-war party, particularly the leadership. They don't want to be seen as the party of negotiations or diplomacy anymore. They think, again, by being, or they thought at one point, and still think this, by being the pro-war party, that somehow they are showing their patriotism, which again, somehow will get them more right-wing white folks to vote for them. So that's part of the electoral strategy, is that, by being more openly pro-cop, by shutting down the so-called progressives who are in the party, or the more liberal types who are in the party, and by being pro-military and pro-service, that they have somehow moved themselves closer to the folks who are now or have always been voting for Trump or voting Republican, because the strategy of the Democrats is to constantly tilt to the right. And when they do that in an attempt to get these votes, they're inheriting and taking up the mantle of empire building to the extreme. Now, again, the Democrats have always been a party of war. But what has stood out about the Democrats as opposed to the Republicans is that they at least offer themselves as the doves as opposed to the hawks, right? They would engage in diplomacy, negotiation, and attempt to build out treaties and so forth, always towards the U.S. advantage, not towards any real peace. But that was that was basically their symbol, or the way in which they like to push themselves. When we look back in history, before there was Nixon, there was Johnson and Kennedy. In terms of the Vietnam War, Obama continued the Iraqi war after Bush, and then started drone warfare to such a heightened degree that he bombed 7, 8, 9 different countries at one time. And so the Democrats have never been anti-war, but they've been more fluidly considered to at least be a party in the past where if you were fighting for an end of war, you could have a space and a place to talk. But as we've seen this year in particular at the National Democratic Convention, when a Palestinian who was a registered Democrat wanted to get on stage, not chastise the Democratic Party, but tell people openly to vote for Cop Harris. I keep trying to get her name right, but her real name is Cop Harris. To openly vote for Cop Harris, but to suggest a ceasefire, that person was denied a platform. And instead, they gave platforms to Republicans to speak at the Democratic National Convention. Cop Harris openly said that she wanted Republicans in her new administration. And so particularly the white American public gave, instead of saying, no, we don't want you to put Republicans in your administration. We want a Republican administration. Because again, why go Republican light? Why go right-wing light? Why go white supremacy light when you can have the full blown on thing there? So the strategy by the Democrats has constantly and continually failed over the last several decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to that point, it's now a party of neoliberals and neocons overtly. Because when I mentioned the DNC in 2020, even to think about what happened with Roe v. Wade, on that stage at the DNC was the former Ohio governor. And at that time, he was overtly anti-abortion. And that is someone who was pivoted and highlighted as a supporter of Biden. Because again, at that time, they were doing the same exact strategy. How many Republicans can we get that oppose Trump so that we can show that there is a partisanship here? And what happened on that DNC stage was it was overtly neoconservative. And that played out, even to the point of the introspection that we're seeing on a mainstream level of this potential cabinet for Trump, right? We're looking into everybody. But there was only a few amount of people that actually looked into the fact that Susan Rice was running domestic policy in this country the entire 4 years. And Susan Rice, if you remember Sudan, why there's now a Sudan and a South Sudan, what Susan Rice was doing in Ethiopia, what Susan Rice was doing in Kenya, what Susan Rice was doing in Libya. And that is the person who, and this was all under Obama, and this is the person who was running domestic policy under Biden. To no introspection. So when we talk about cop cities and things like that, and seeing it pop up all over the place, or the expanded budget of a 1033 program and Operation Relentless Pursuit, and then you look at who is running domestic policy, it is a freaking warmonger, right? But first Black. First
and
Black
so we got to
woman,
accept that.
right? First Black woman, so she's not anything distinct from a Condoleezza Rice, but the way she gets depicted because she's a Democrat, there's no scrutiny. And these are the people that were in the cabinet, right? So I think that for me, I think I am struggling personally with the way that, because I don't think that there's ever, at least for my organization, there has never been a point where there was a singling out of Biden. It has always been the Biden-Harris administration, showing a complicity of the Democratic Party as a whole, right? So this sort of fixation on Trump as a singular figure and not the party or the complicity or the sort of the mingling between the duopoly, I think kind of it does a disservice to the way that we're able to even discuss how none of these things change. Renee did a show a couple of weeks ago when she was talking about the people who were even working on Kamala's campaign. All of these people are working with one another, right? So the distinctions between them are very, very, very thin. And in terms of campaigns that existed under Trump and then existed under Biden and will exist under Trump again, that does not, the campaigns itself, obviously strategically on a local level, there's going to be shifts, but the campaigns itself stay the same because the duopoly itself, it's still maneuvering the same. So if we're saying no compromise, no retreat, defeat the war against Africans here, that's not something that we say, oh, well, it's going to look completely different under Trump. We were asking for that under the Democrats, under the Republicans, because there's an understanding of a general war. So I'm struggling with the sort of, because to me, it reads like a capture or an attempt to capture a people that has not even really been shifted in that way. They're still cemented in this dichotomy, right? And they have not been pushed in any way. So here comes these anti-Trump type of things that seems to want to grab them, but has no real structure for it. To where you taking them beyond that?
And the other thing around the Democrats, let's remember, the Democrats actually pushed or wanted Trump as an opponent. So all the talk of fascism was partly also a way for the Democrats to suggest, at least in their minds at the time, as a electoral strategy. They thought they could beat Donald Trump easily, and so they wanted to support Donald Trump as the nominee because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to easily beat Trump because the country wouldn't be crazy enough to support someone who had no electoral experience, no political experience whatsoever, was a cartoon character, seemed to be obviously pushing not only just half-truths, but lies and incoherent at times. Again, someone who didn't measure up to sort of the standard of at least presenting themselves as a diplomat or a statesperson, someone who, again, has been accused of multiple rapes, multiple assaults, someone who said things. That person, the Democratic Party pushed to be the Republican nominee because they thought they would beat that person. And so now it seems quite unusual or weird that when they now shift to all the way of calling this person a fascist, and they said that this person is dangerous for the country. And I'll get to the point where I think there is a particular danger of Trump or what Trump represents. But let's not forget, like, they've now told us that this person is a fascist of the worst variety. There won't be any more democracy. After the election, that person is invited to the White House to sit down, to have coffee and tea, and then telling everybody else to chill. And that's just have power turned over to the person that you just said is going to ruin whatever you call democracy. So there's an incoherence to the Democratic strategy, except that their continual attempt is to tread towards the right. And again, there is a certain thing of a big tent party in terms of there are people who are liberal / progressive, who, as in the Republican Party, people who are not liberal / progressive, but people who are battling for ideas within these party structures. What's happened to the Republican Party, again, since the election of Obama, is that basically a certain level of white supremacy has overtaken the let's say the Rockefeller Republicans, or the Republicans who are more business Republicans. And again, the basic tenet for the Republican Party at this stage under Trump and from the Tea Party to Trump is a return to overt white folks controlling. No more of this diversity, no more of this affirmative action stuff that's used immigrants as a way to bash folks over the head and tell white folks that you're losing your country, and as a way to basically get to, again, already a voting bloc for Republicans, but to get to white working class people, white men, white women, and tell them basically that they're losing their country, not only because of the immigrants, but because capitalism or the capitalists are taking their jobs out of the country, and that we need to get these jobs back in the country, to go back to the good old days of the 50s and 60s of like nuclear families, no more of this LGBTQ stuff, no more of this trans stuff, but going back to a nuclear family of the 50s and 60s, going back to a Christian nationalism, and back to a capitalism where they feel that they were justly rewarded for their place in society. Mm-hmm. That is what's taken hold. And that is why the Republicans are the disruptors in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so you have some of these crazy picks for these cabinet positions, people who have never dealt with any of these issues before. You just had Linda McMahon, who was picked to be the head of the education department at the federal level. So these crazy picks who don't have experience, because they are seeing themselves as disruptors to the status quo from a right-wing position. Mm-hmm. And so I do think there is a part of it that can be, particularly domestically, more fraught, that unleashes the power of white nationalists on the ground. And again, I think some of that is already at play. But I think there's a way in which this is unleashed. Now, I'm not saying because of that we should vote in Democrats. but
No.
I represent, but I understand,
Yeah.
or at least I try to see like what are the different, where are the different places where we will be fighting because of this, right? What are the new struggles that we will have to engage in? And sometimes, again, in terms of struggle, if you are considering yourself a revolutionary or a radical, and you think the American empire is overtly and innately a white supremacist capitalist nation, then what is it that helps bring an end to that? And sometimes what helps bring it into that is the overt conflicts that will surely start to happen, the contradictions which will surely show themselves more, not only here in the United States, but around the world, which will break up the ability of the empire to function the way it's been functioning. And so there's some things about that open up new opportunities for struggle, but just as this things about it that bring about new dangers of struggle. And that same thing can be said if Harris were to have won the election. But I think there are some uniquenesses or differences that we could explore in terms of what it means for Donald Trump to kind of come back in terms of being in office.
Right. I received that. I received, because I'm not in disagreement. But even as you named that, right? I'm thinking about the ways that as this was growing, like Obama administration, that primary in 2010 was a concession to the Tea Party. Wholeheartedly. They ensured that there was no safety nets on DACA. They ensured that Medicare for All did not pass because they were attempting to win over a base. And they prioritized that and still lost all of those seats, right? And we're seeing that shift. So even as we're talking about this sort of protection, we're going to lose protection from LGBT and trans rights and women's rights. In the aftermath of Kamala's loss, the conversation from Democrats is we were too progressive and we need to drop that shit, right? So to what extent are they even fully concerned about these things? And even with the abortion has never been a hard line issue ever, right? So they have conceded consistently to the Republican Party in these attempts to try to win over a base that is never going to shift. That base is not shifting. And to your point, that base is a white nationalist base. That base is not shifting, right? And the base that they do have, they just have it. That Black Democratic base of liberal Black women and Black men, they have that base consistently, and they pour nothing into it. They pour nothing into it because they consistently concede to the Republicans, and they use the Republicans as a boogeyman. And not only do they use the Republicans as a boogeyman, but when they get into the office, they are to the right of the Republicans. So that is my struggle, because certainly this is going to bring new arenas of struggle. But I do agree that it is going to raise contradictions, that the people because there are arenas of struggle that have been consistent. This is, for a lot of us, this is the work that we have been preparing for or have been trying to highlight in these last 4 years, that this is ongoing and this is something that we need to be doing. Come out in the streets, come join us, right? So as these contradictions are sharpening, certainly more people will be tapped in and aware, because now it's going to be affecting them. So that's really, for me, because even to say, well, because I struggle as we look at the policies domestically. And then if we consider the preparation for what could have happened if Kamala won, or if we look at how many white nationalist marches have Nashville had in the last 4 years? Nashville, just because it's a Tuesday, right? And what happened in Buffalo? Like, this is to say that, oh, this is something that's going to be, there's been pocket instances underreported, right? Of this, into which has pushed that we need to start to get serious about the war that we are under. And this has happened under Democrats, it has happened under Republicans. So seeing that Trump is coming back, right? What does that mean in terms of this is a unique dynamic? And you know what I'm saying? That is where I'm trying to, because I can empathize with the fear. But in terms of saying that how we react to Trump should be different from how we reacted in terms of the call that we're making for people to join into this struggle, raise the contradictions of domestic and global imperialism being the same, pointing out these instances of what's happening to our conditions as internal colonialism, right? That's all going to be sharpened and highlighted even more significantly under Trump, because people are going to be more aware, because that fear heightens that awareness. Because you're looking to see what's the next thing that's going to happen. But that does not signify that this is a significant shift, but that is an escalation that the Democrats have been complicit in.
Yeah, and it's a perceptive shift. And so, recently we had a meeting. Organizers Against Cop City had a meeting over the weekend that maybe over the last 6 or 7 months might have brought out 40 people. Now it's post-election and it brought out close to 200 people, right? Because there is that idea that now that white nationalism is in our face again, overtly in our face, that motivates people to think about acting, whether or not they stay involved or whatever. And then that's our role. Our role is to understand that the situation in terms of perception, man, in actuality, you're right. A lot of stuff on the ground has always been consistent. But when the perception shifts for people, what do we do then to bring those people in, right? To bring those people in, to make them understand that the solution is not going back to the Democratic Party or not relying on the Democratic Party, because there is no real left in this country. And that's part of, again, our role, our goal is to establish a real left, in particular, real Black left, that is here to disrupt, organize, and fight back, not only against the hard right, but against the neoliberal, fascist, so-called Democrats, right? And I think that's the part for me that gives us the openings in terms of showing people or people seeing, as long as we can convince them not to run back to the Democratic Party. And I think that's the big contention, even within telling people. That's why I think it is wise what you do, I should say, in terms of talking about the Democratic Party and hammering home that the Democratic Party is not a place of safety to fight against fascism. The Democratic Party itself fights against the left in its own party, progressives, liberals in its own parties. So even those who don't go, in my estimation, far enough, are still too far for the Democratic Party. You had Nina Turner, who they ran a candidate against, even though she was going to win, right? Under Biden, she was going to win that seat. She was ahead of the polls. They decided to put up somebody who they considered more, quote unquote, mainstream, which they means more right wing, to stop her from winning. You had the Cori Bush scenario here in St. Louis, where they ran somebody, where you had Bowman in New York, where they ran somebody. All these folks were run with the okay from the Democratic leadership, and even more importantly, with the okay from the Black caucus, who did nothing to support these progressive or far more progressive sounding candidates than they did with their when they brought in opponents to those candidates. They shut up. They said nothing. They brought nobody out. They made no statements. They didn't talk about, again, this is the party primarying people who already have the seats. They already have the seats. But because they consider them too progressive, again, people who we feel to the left of, but even those folks were considered too progressive for the Democratic Party. So it's important to point out that the Democratic Party is no safety against fascism. The Democratic Party is the one that opens the door to let it in, because it doesn't allow and will never allow leftists to truly come into the party, because it is a party of big business and a party of billionaires also. Just like the Republicans have their billionaires, the Democrats have their billionaires, and sometimes they both have the same billionaires. So that is what the party represents. I say to people, what would happen, you think, if there was a big progressive takeover or left takeover of the Democratic Party? All the money would leave. So you might as well build a new party anyway, because it's not like those rich people that fund that party are going to stay around in that party, continue to give money to it, to fund it, while it's going to be talking about taxing the rich, or making sure that there's health care for everybody, or making sure there's a living wage for everybody. They're not going to sit there for that. They're going to do another party, which is going to be another right-wing, moderate right-wing party, to take the place of the Democrats. So the Democrats' role is not only to fight against, to put up these propagandist fights against the right, but a lot of its real power is fighting to make sure that a left really never exists in this country. And that's part of what the role of the Democratic Party is. And so they can never be trusted to be the saviors of us from white nationalism. But again, I hammer home that there are unique issues that a Donald Trump party or Donald Trump infused Republican Party brings to us that we have to start being prepared for.
Yeah.
But speaking of being prepared, let's bring up the ear doctor. Prepare us for a break.
Yeah, look like you need to run to the bathroom or something. Yeah, great job.
About what we was discussing.
The world, all the things going on. It's crazy out here, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you pay attention.
Yeah, no doubt.
It shows.
As you get more cultural.
Yeah, right. The political growth shows that you pay attention.
Nah, I was getting some emails handled. I ain't gonna front. Got a wedding coming up. I gotta get person straight.
Working
All
on
right. Huh?
Working on the clock.
Hey, I'm more Jamaican. I'm more Caribbean than you. I'm about 5 jobs.
12 jobs.
Straight up. All right, so let's take a quick break right here on no other than the remix. Let's take a mental health break. We need that. I think so. All right, right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Let's do it like this. Remix on the remix.
My life will never be the same. 'Cause girl, you came and changed the way I walk, the way I talk. I cannot explain the things I feel for you. But girl, you know it's true. Stay with me, fulfill my dreams, and I'll be all you need. Feels so right, girl. Search for the perfect love all my life. All my life. Ooh, feels like they found a perfect love. And I found. Come on, girl. You got my world, you know you did, and everything I own I give. The very stuff who think I find someone like you to call mine. You got my world, you know you did, and everything I own I give. The very stuff who think I find someone like you to call mine. Time I knew that love.
All right, let me take you to a time and place. Let me take you back to 1997. We talking about the Wu-Tang Clan off their album Wu-Tang Forever. The name of the song is Bells of War, mixed with a little bit of 2001 Michael Jackson off his Invincible album. Name of this song is You Rock My World. And that's your remix on the Remix Morning Show. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and tell a friend to tell a friend. This is the Remix Morning Show, and this is the show they need to be watching. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare, and donate at blkliberationmedia.org. Thank you. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning crew. You know how we do. Yeah.
Well, you know you did. Who think I find someone like you to call mine?
Yeah.
Are these your mashups, or do you find? I know that was nice. Did you find these someplace? Who's doing these?
Who's doing what the fuck? Are you serious, bro?
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know for sure. I was just like, that was really good.
Invincible is an underrated album.
It is
Really
It
great
is.
album.
I agree.
I gotta check it out again.
With Butterflies and Invincible.
Oh, Butterfly.
Butterfly was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
find you.
Nah, I just pick songs and say, hey, let me try to smash it up.
Really?
Smash it
Oh
up.
wow, it's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Doctor in the Flesh, Funky Fresh. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure Michael Jackson had a lot of issues being mistaken as white. Poor Michael Jackson, you know.
I know his kids probably do, since they are.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Once he got rid of that nigga nose?
not just that, the skin, the lips, the cheeks, the hair. He got rid of it all.
He was breathing up all the oxygen. It was like,
I was like,
damn.
his nose wasn't even that, whatever. His nose wasn't that whatever. His nose wasn't big. Like, his nose
No,
was fine.
I feel that way about the Braxtons too.
Oh, they all did nose jobs, right?
Oh, yeah.
I believe so. Maybe not to Wanda. Maybe.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
a
know.
sister? I don't even know that one.
Yeah, I only know Tony.
That's the
I know they're
sister.
sisters, but I didn't know there were other
dark-skinned
ones.
Sister.
Oh, she's the cute one. She's real pretty too.
All I know is Tamar and Tony.
I just know the one that sings.
Rest in peace, Tracy.
Tony.
Yeah, we're not divested like Erica Keynes from the.
Well,
soap
it
opera.
seems like you are divested.
Did I say the wrong word? Damn, I'll be trying to look smart, sound smart when I be on the screen with y'all using certain words, but
You didn't button up all the way. That's why you forgot.
That's what it is.
Yeah. You button up all the way. Yeah. Why?
We're not as invested as Erica Keynes is in the show.
There you go.
There you go. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That was a sentence. That was a sentence.
Thank you for helping me get my shit together. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's what the sisters is all about, man. They help us brothers get our stuff together.
Is that what they're here for? Okay, good.
Pretty much. I mean,
oh damn no.
I mean, this world would be chaotic if we was running it. Oh damn, we are.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Here we go. 2 shots.
You gonna do one more break before you go?
What you say?
You gonna do one more break before you go?
Yeah. Let's
come with 9:27 something. Yeah, come on, give us like one more break.
9:25. Yeah, let me.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Get off the screen. Thank you. Remix morning show. How y'all doing out there again? My man already told y'all that y'all need to give us a little cash, whatever. I'm up in this funky hotel, so I'm not crazy about the acoustics. I feel like I can't hear everything right, but I'm plowing through, but I'm just not crazy about this hotel. And because I registered late, so I got one of the cheaper hotels. The good hotel where the conference is at, you were already booked. Yeah, I got to actually walk to the conference. Other people get to be there because that's where the conference is. I got to figure out how to get there and shit. So I'm not happy with that.
But you get your steps in.
That's true. See, you do care about me.
I told you.
Oh, making Ricky, pretty Ricky. All right, so I got a story. And so this is showing the craziness for me, the craziness that Trump brings, and or the level of propaganda that a Trump administration will be bringing in terms of the level of overt racism or whatever. So this was a story making the rounds a day or so ago. Sources say Trump could deport undocumented Chinese, Asian American groups, rush to prep. And so there's been, I don't know what's happening with this face of his, whatever. So it says Asian American organizations say they are scrambling but not completely surprised over President-elect Donald Trump's campaign promise of mass deportations. Undocumented immigrants from China who are deemed to be of military age will be among the first groups targeted for deportation by the incoming Trump administration, sources close to the campaign previously told NBC News, citing the potential risk to national security. While many community organizations have been making plans for months in anticipation for Trump's immigration promises, the potential to be targeted has left many groups prepping immigration materials across Asian languages and coordinating with other community nonprofits to help serve the potential spike in families impacted by deportations. Since Asian Americans have long had the fastest growing undocumented population, tripling over a 15-year period from 2000 to 2015, the number of Chinese nationals crossing to the U.S. has skyrocketed in recent years. Between 2022 and 24, it says here that there's jumped from 27,000 to 78,000. It says basically the Bethany Lee and Lai, Executive Director of Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, said the targeting of the Chinese community has long been foreshadowed. She cited laws in several states that restrict Chinese people from buying homes and real estates, as well as the Trump-era security program, the China Initiative, which was accused of racial profiling towards Asian scholars. It says, we know that both the state and federal government have deemed China as a national security threat. She said, we saw this in World War II, the Japanese Americans incarcerated. We saw this post 9/11 with Muslims and South Asian men being detained and some deported. So again, this speaks to the particular scare tactics and targeting that the Trump administration which again is using China as its new targeted enemy, right? So again, we have the history of the communists, the Russians, the Iranians, Arabs, Muslims, and the new target, the new fascinating target, again, that Trump brings up to a particular level. Again, it is not a unique target by the Republicans because the Democrats have also targeted China. But the ways in which the Republican Party not only targets China, but Chinese people for deportation or potentially for deportation. And so the question becomes, do we see, relatively speaking, mass roundups of not only Chinese people, but Latin American people at levels that surpass what we were seeing in Trump 1 and what we saw during Biden? And so it's that sort of targeted racial rhetoric that adds the sort of the fuel to the fire of the white nationalists on the ground. And it adds to the danger of everyday people, living their everyday lives in America because they're targeted as an other than what? Other than white. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of the points that highlights the significance of why we should be paying attention to foreign policy, because the reaction to Asian Americans is not disconnected from the reaction to China itself. And at this point, it does not matter what kind of Asian American they are, because they are all being deemed as Chinese one way or the other. And it's not dissimilar from when we see how the U.S. approaches Africa to how the U.S. approaches Africans here in the country, or Arabs in the Middle East and Arabs here in this country. I think that highlights that. But also, to the point that I was saying earlier about the way that I don't think strategies change for people who have been actively engaged in this. That started under Trump. It started in 2017. One of the things that we highlighted was this Cold War against China. Especially with the expansion or the attempts to expand the Indo-Pacific Command. And what we've seen with the Biden administration is the actual expansion of the Indo-Pacific Command and a more covert ways of antagonizing China, and then going the long route. And that has been the dispute between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the last 6 years, I believe, around to directly attack China or indirectly attack China. And what the Republican Party sees is that China's the real enemy, which is why they don't want to waste time on this proxy war in Ukraine. Whereas the Democrats see chipping away at China by breaking apart that relationship that Russia and China has that sustains China's ability to then become a sort of global figure on the main stage. And we see that with the when I say the expansion, there is military bases that were built, I think, last summer on the shore of the Philippines, right? That is directly facing. Then think about what Nancy Pelosi has been chipping away at the democratic processes between China and Taiwan. How many visits has Gregory Meeks and Nancy Pelosi made over these last few years in Taiwan, right? So there's these indirect ways that they've been trying to hit China, especially with these sort of Stop Asian Hate, right? That campaign where they were trying to, again, make that distinction like, oh, the Republican Party is the one that's really the racist party, but we, not us, right? As the Democrats are condoning and inciting and keeping this up in terms of how they are trying to attack China in a more strategic way versus the way that the Republicans want to overt war with China. Not in anyone's best interest, right? So, which is another reason why they don't want Trump in office, right? The way that he is strategically going about things, or not strategically going about things. But I do think that, yeah, it does. I think this is an opportunity to raise those contradictions around who actually is a safe haven for any of these groups, and it's not one. Especially when you look at how the global policy is affecting the sort of domestic policy or the impacts of that, not dissimilar with Haiti and Haitians here in the U.S. or Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans here in the U.S.
Because you're right, it was under Obama that the agreement was made to make the shift. Again, the deep state, Obama, the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon, economic institutions, that's where the large shift started to happen, where China became the enemy, and where they started talking about getting out of the Middle East and these so-called forever wars, which they caused, right? They wanted to act like these folks are always killing themselves. No, you're the one killing them. You're the one causing disarray in that part of the world. You're the one propping up fake governments and southern colonial governments, which people are fighting against, right? But it was under the Obama regime where it was agreed upon in terms of national security, white papers and so forth, that China was now the larger enemy, because China's, like you said, China's economy was rivaling the United States economy and Western economies, that China was no longer satisfied again making the toys for the world, or making being low wage, having low wage labor being exploited to make low-tech products to sell to the rest of the world, as was the role designated them by the West. And it's interesting too, because part of the larger war with Russia, which dates back centuries and a century in some ways, is because Russia at one point played a particular peripheral role to Western capitalism, right? In terms of being a nation state that was below the Western nations in the pecking order, but it served its role. And when after the revolution of 1917, when Russia had the nerve to say it didn't want to serve that role anymore, is when they became the great enemy. Well, now China is becoming the great enemy because it is no longer willing to serve the role of second tier nation to U.S. Western interest. And so all of that energy, and this is something, again, that the Republicans agree upon, the Democrats agree upon, the deep state agrees upon. Now, they, again, like you said, they may not want to pursue it in the same language that Trump does, right? Because, again, they want to, some of this is for international cover, right? This is not even about domestic policy. The deep state here, the military industrial complex, can care less about Chinese immigrants being unfairly treated. But they don't want that language to be the language that's registered internationally, because that language is registered internationally. It also turns people cold against the United States. Look at the reaction when Black folks were fighting for quote unquote civil rights, and then again you had the moderate Democrats who are like, again, you're persecuting this wrong. We don't want the language overt segregation anymore to dominate, because that is making us look bad as African nations free themselves, as Latin American nations free themselves. So there's the international ramifications, that the connections they are concerned with as much as they are concerned with domestic policy. They don't care if Black people are oppressed. They just don't want people to be publicly seeing the worst ramifications of that oppression. They want to hide that. They want to keep that away from people. So it's okay if you charge people through stop and frisk and claim that it doesn't have racial bias, even though it's clear that it does. It's different when it's overt and people are being called names and hit over the head and fire hose and the rest of it. It's like, that's the part they need to keep down. That's the part they don't want the public to see, particularly internationally, because it means that people will now respond to the United States in a particular way. Mm-hmm. So the connections are there. But they, like you said, Republicans and Democrats, they mostly agree with this, but they don't, like, as always with the Republicans and Democrats and or the right wing and the moderates or whatever, is that they don't necessarily always agree with the strategy on how to implement these things that they agree upon need to happen or change, which again is the basis of somewhat in terms of the Civil War, right? It wasn't like folks were overtly all that opposed to slavery in the North or opposed to Black oppression in the North. They just thought they had a better mechanism for oppressing people. And that was, i.e. wage slavery, as opposed to like overt slavery anymore. Mm-hmm. It's as the modern world was moving on from overt slavery, there was a ready replacement for that, which the Northerners were like, hey, you dumb Southern fucks. If you just did it our way, we would have all the control we need. And the dumb Southern fucks were like, no way, Jose. We want to do it the way we're used to doing it, the way that fits into within our culture, the way that fits into our lifestyle. And that's the way we want to do it. And that war still plays out in a lot of ways today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you just reminded me about the pivot to Asia that was under Obama. And then the Indo-Pacific Command, like, you know, BAP obviously talks about and finds significance because we have campaigns on Southcom and AFRICOM and how the U.S. has carved up the world into military commands. And now there's a SpaceCom, which happened under Trump, and no fanfare about SpaceCom through the Biden administration. But except for now, because Elon Musk, that they have given They have given a lot of money to him and Bezos to do these space things during this administration, are now concerned with where that money is going to go going to him, and what's going to happen with that money under the Trump administration. Even though they spent the first 4 years of Trump using Elon Musk as a way to mock Trump, like he's a real billionaire and you're not. Now Elon Musk is an enemy to the Democratic Party, but you see how they play that. But right now, the Palau Islands, I know that they have created military bases. There's a struggle on Palau Islands about them building military bases in Australia. Of course, the U.S. kind of runs and owns South Korea. That's like a U.S. colony. And all of that in the last 4 years in these meetings and these Asian conferences has been, especially with Japan, has been a lead up in discussions around what are we going to do with China, because these are all the nations that are opposition or set up to be a U.S. ally in opposition to North Korea and to China, which are seemingly the more socialist aspects, or at the very least, alternatives to U.S. and Western hegemony, which cannot take place, right? So we're seeing all of that happen. Obviously, it's under discussed, right? Because who the hell even cares about what's happening in Asia? And that's my main concern about how people even interact with these policies and the sort of disconnect between the foreign and domestic, because they do not, I mean, the average U.S. citizen does not learn about a place until there is a war, and that map goes up on the TV. Right. So in all of the Pakistans, Afghanistan, there's been a lot of uprisings. There's been some color revolution-esque things happening, but there has been movement there that does have to do with what's happening in the Ukraine proxy war, but also has to do with what's happening in China. And those things are under discussed because nobody knows where that is. And there's no concern for it. Even the coup in Pakistan and why that would have happened and what central role that plays in what's happening in that region is under discuss. And all of this shit takes place in a Democratic administration. So for me, now that Trump is coming into office and you're seeing these things play out, or at least the preparation for these things to play out, I look at it like, well, we have these ongoing campaigns. How do we up the ante? If I know that Marco Rubio is now coming in, and I know what Marco Rubio just spent the last 4 years doing and has been allowed to do concerning Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela, then that means that we have to amplify the Zone of Peace campaign that we started under a Biden administration because of what was occurring in South America and the Caribbean, right? And that's not dissimilar to what's happening in Asia. We have to consistently make these connections for folks. But yeah.
No, I think that's completely true. And, one small cutaway is someone pointed out, I apologize if I called the Southerners, if I didn't point out that, yes, the Democratic Party was the party of the racists, right, of the overt racists. The vehicles have changed because the Democrats, again, at some point in the 1950s and 60s, began to, or people who considered themselves to be more liberal-minded, particularly in the South, particularly in the North, started employing a different strategy around civil rights, which caused the hardcore racists to leave the Democratic Party and then join the Republican Party. But yes, historically speaking, prior to that time period, it was the so-called Democrats who were the party of the hardcore white racists, and particularly in the South, right? So just for clarity, I thank you for that. But I think you are completely correct. People here in the United States don't know about any country until the United States tells them it's their enemy. They know nothing about Iran or Iraq or Hussein until the United States says this is your new enemy. And now that China is your new enemy, right? China is taking your job. China didn't take any jobs. You put the jobs there in China so you can make a bigger profit. And you wanted to continue to make that profit as long as China knew its place. And when China said that was no longer its place, now China is the enemy. And I think there's a lot of, we've spoken about this already. There's a lot of great things happening in the world in terms of nation states breaking away from the paradigm of accepting Western hegemony. But that's a process, right? Because some of these nations are splitting their interests. They're trying, some are being non-aligned, some are hooked up to, because even though Western hegemony is dying, it's not dying right away, right? It's still lives to be a strong, it is still the hegemonic economic empire or leader in the world. And so you have nation states like India, even Brazil to a degree, which are sort of playing footsie with BRICS and leftist, or not leftist, or alternative economic models of not only not necessarily overtly socialism, but sometimes socialism, but also creating economic models which are alternative to the models set up by the West. But they are also attempting to stay within the G7 or the G20 and to see what they can do to cause some loosening of those models, which they think will give them more power even within. But there's a lot of things that are happening in the world which are fantastic, which again, it's up to us to recognize strategically where those points are and to do what we can to point people to a new way of thinking about how to fight, not necessarily new, but maybe new for them, that again, the saviors of our community are not going to be putting in the next Democratic candidate in 4 years after Trump has done all he can to destabilize things, whether he's in his America First appetite. So, what are the other vehicles that we are creating? How do we reach more people? How do we get people to join and stay and not see it as a temporary thing? I think all of that are the struggles in which a real left should be having now over the next 3 to 4 years. But speaking to somebody who's never struggling, always on point.
Hey, this is one of the hoodies I did. This is a 17 teenage Michael Jackson and a teenage Prince.
All I saw was Prince. I didn't even see the Michael. Michael was on the point to which one is Michael?
This is Prince. That's
That's right.
Okay, I see it now.
All right. Hey, so
cool.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna do a quick break because I gotta get out of here. I don't like being late, as y'all all know. Right
You're
here.
not wearing that hoodie to your meeting, though.
Nah, I just put it on so y'all can see some of the work, the quick work. Come on.
Self-promotion. Okay.
Of course. All right. Right here on the Remix Morning Show, let's take a quick break. Yeah. I promote myself for mental health, do for Delph and do for others, my sisters, my brothers. Yeah. Let's get it started. Welcome out, y'all, to the Remix Morning Show. Hit that like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare. Go to our website, donate, blkliberationmedia.org. Okay, as you can hear in the background, I wanted to give a artist spotlight to a brother we just lost the other day. He goes by the name of Saphir, coming straight out of the West Kiddos. All right, let me put you on real quick. Name is Reggie Gibson. You might have remember him from the movie Menace to Society. This was Cousin Harold that got shot at the light when they got carjacked. Yeah, so this is that guy, but he's also an MC, a rapper, a producer, and he was down with the group Roscos and Exhibit. They was known as the Golden State Warriors. But yeah, he actually started off working with Digital Underground. Him and Tupac used to live together, and they was dancers for Digital Underground. He had 5 albums starting back in 1994. Last album was in 2009. So this brother just lost his life. He just made his transition at the age of 54 on November 19th. Still don't know what caused his death. But yo, we done lost so many people in the 50s right now. It is crazy wild. But what happened with his career also is he got in a airplane. What was it? A crash and a fire in 1992 with TWA. Damn, TWA. No, he went back. And he messed his back up a little bit, so he was in a wheelchair for a while. So that's probably why you didn't see him for a while. And yeah, another brother in the hip hop game has made his transition. Saphir. All right, let's go. Let's get back to the Remix Morning Crew.
I used to think time with you would be ageless. Now you're in court trying to garnish all my wages. Only till I situate underground and stash it before I let them.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. That's your artist spotlight. Safir, another brother that made his transition at the age of 54. Crazy.
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, a
And
lot
when
of people
I came
don't.
back, I thought it was the you remember the Jamaican from Living Single? That's who I thought that was.
Oh,
I was like, oh, he died. And then I was listening and it's like, oh no, that's some other.
Yeah. It's crazy. Nah, a lot of people know him from that Minister Society when he was drinking at the light.
Oh, he was oh, that was him?
Yeah, that was him at the light that got shot up. He's my cousin Harold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it is. Yeah. Hey, listen, y'all have a great rest of the day. Thank y'all for tuning in. Continue to stay. We got a lot of dope news here for y'all and a lot of dope information. Y'all bringing it, and I appreciate it. I'm actually listening.
So I gotta push the buttons then.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I ain't got no buttons over here, so.
All right. Well, you got a lot of buttons you can push. But all right, we're gonna be back. Well, we'll still be here. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Peace. So, before we go on, has anybody tracked down Anthony yet? Nobody tracked down Anthony in the chat. In the chat, nobody tracked down Anthony. Tell him he's welcome back. I think JB might have lifted the ban, but I'm not quite.
Oh, he was banned.
Son, there was a whole story yesterday. I know, yeah, because you got into it early and then you left. Your man, I don't know why I keep on forgetting my man's name. We had a whole fight yesterday. He said nobody cared. Leah said nobody cared, Kamal. I care.
But y'all woke up on some Monday shit on a Tuesday. You was fighting too?
I wasn't fighting. What's my man's name? Why can't I remember his name? Damn, I'm getting old. Joshua. Thank you so much, Quentin.
Josh from the channel?
Yeah, Joshua banned Anthony yesterday because Anthony said something about supporting. Well, the topic came up that that Tyson, the Tyson fight, and Tyson was a rapist, and then Anthony said that Tyson was framed or basically was innocent. And again, we can have different opinions on it. We could think that was a trash opinion, and a lot of Anthony's opinions are trash or whatever. It doesn't mean he should be banned. It's like that was a heavy. My man Josh went in. And just like boom, bap, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you exercising that power too much or whatever. So we want, so we had a little talk afterwards, and we was like, we don't want Anthony banned. So why don't y'all go get Anthony back? You know what I'm saying? I know nobody care, but I feel bad.
I'm sure they'll find their way.
True indeed. Do you got any other news?
Like somebody in the chat has blocked him. I don't even know where they would find him. So the fact that he's banned, but if it's a ban,
I figure somebody in the chat says he's not a member of BAP. You know what I'm saying?
Please relax.
Oh, my bad. I'm just
we have our own. We have enough.
We have enough drama.
Yeah, we have enough struggles. But speaking of, I am interested because I was speaking with some members, and I had noticed that Paca had a duopoly teaching, that Baltimore had a duopoly teaching, Black Underground and the students at HU are having theirs at Red Emma's this Saturday. Nashville had theirs, I believe, either last night or tonight. Bat Philly is doing one in a few weeks. And it was just like these bam to bam. I was like, damn, I could have thought about that and, made that a little more strategic. But I say that to say, like, even highlighting that Baltimore's, that was probably the largest amount of people we had at a town hall. It was almost 100 people. And the topic was on the duopoly. So we had panelists there. We had someone from Eugene People's Progress Party, which is a political independent African-centered party here in Maryland, attempting to get on the ballot. And then we had someone from PSL in Baltimore come and speak. And then we also had someone from PACA, just so that they could speak about the three alternatives or different viewpoints, or how they're even understanding what's to come and what has happened. But like when I looked in that room, and I was like, wait a minute, there's 100 of us. We ain't doing no Q&A. Let's talk. Because obviously if everybody came in here, y'all knew what the theme was. So obviously everybody's sick of the duopoly, but we do not know what to do, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we're about to do. What are the next steps? And there was this lady who happened, because we do those events at the church, and she was a member of the church. And this lady was giving out zip codes, and she was like, over here. And I know, and I spoke to this lady in Allentown, and I heard you can use the schools, because schools got to operate amongst a certain amount of hours. So when the schools close, you could still go back into school. So she was, and these are things, this is what I was really getting at, right? Where to the point, like I'm it's not that I'm dismissing things, right? But I do have an acute focus on the organizing aspect of it and what it takes to pull people into what we're doing, right? And that is consistency and having these consistent conversations and being clear about the direction that we're trying to go in and really talking about, because even in that room, there was about 5 different organizations. Lawrence came for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, and they do a lot of policy work. They just won. They got question H shut down on the ballot, and that was a coalition between the Green Party in Baltimore, Eugene People's Progress Party, and LBS. So there's already little pocket things that we talked about. The struggle to get Marilyn Mosby out of office in a Black leadership class dynamic that is Baltimore, right? Because if our objectives were to free Keith and get her out of office, we won. And we won up under things that we could not win. It was impossible. And it took 6 years. It wasn't something that we started and then we won the next day. But just being in a space of almost 100 people who came to say, we're tired of this, and be able to say, well, there are ways that we can win. And these are some of the incremental wins that we made as a collective force, right? So what does that look like to go up against what's coming? But we have a body of we have now a Black governor and a Black senator, first Black woman, first Black governor. We have a Black mayor. We have a Black city council, right? And this is still a city that is 20% impoverished. It's still a city where the schools are dilapidated or they close because it is too hot in the summer or too cold in the winter, right? There's nothing for the youth. This is a city that criminalizes the youth. This is a city that wants to open a cop city and open $1 billion jail. And this is the conditions, right? Under Democrats. And everybody is, oh my God, Trump, right? And that's where we're trying to like pull in. So that's, if Ivan Bates is worse. And that is a question, because admittedly, me and Lawrence had a little struggle afterwards because he approached me and said, well, I think the people who are suffering under Ivan Bates wouldn't agree that that's a win. But let's think about the context and the objectives of a campaign, right? If we are running a campaign to free Keith Davis Jr. and the objectives are to get him home and to get her out of office, then that is a win. And that is not to say that we are supportive of Ivan Bates, because we are not supportive of Ivan Bates. We have literature on Ivan Bates and his role specifically in facilitating a relationship with the IOF and the Baltimore Police Department. That is Ivan Bates. Ivan Bates is going up against the youth, right? But Baltimore Court Watch started under Marilyn Mosby, who did not decide to become progressive until her last year, when it was easy to. When 2020, when we were under COVID and we had to release prisoners, of course. But you know who she did not release? Keith. And this is what I'm saying. So when we look at the context of what the objectives are, then we got to take these wins. But that is not to say that the struggle ends there. A prosecutor is a prosecutor, and a prosecutor is a cop. And there's no confusion about that. But how we're getting to these points, I think it's important conversations that we need to be consistently having and bringing people in. We need to be collecting our own data. Why did you vote this way? Did you vote? Were you registered to vote? Are you happy with your vote? We don't
That's it. Yeah, no, I was going to say real quick, and sometimes, as organizers, we have to understand the conditions, like conditions change. Not necessarily always the material conditions, but the perception of what those material conditions are, or whether or not those perception of material conditions can get worse. And so again, whether people like it or not, that's what Trump provides. Trump provides the perception that my conditions can get worse. And the organizer's job is to use that to organize. And so there will be an uptick in a lot of these meetings with people being particularly scared of Trump. So whether or not we have a particular fear of Trump is not even the point. The point is that everyday people who are relaxed under democratic regimes, or again, buy into the idea that if someone looks like them, then they're for them, that now all of a sudden they're not as relaxed. They're a little nervous, they're a little scared, and they're looking for alternative vehicles to be engaged in or to fight back through. What is it that we're doing to make sure that when those people come to those alternative vehicles, that there's work for them to do, that there is actions for them to take, that there's campaigns for them to engage in, that there's community work for them to get down in, and that they can see that there is a use for this type of work on the community, as opposed to thinking that you're going to solve the problem by voting for somebody every 2 years or every 4 years. And the thing that the party apparatus and or the electoral apparatus allows is for people to live in a fantasy, a bubble, that they have some sort of real democracy. And that when the Democrats put up an alternative to Trump in 4 years and or congressional races happen in 2 years, that now all the money and the resources will rush to grab those people back. And we will rush, parts of the so-called left will rush to get back engaged so heavily that it wipes out all the good work that just happened over the last 2 to 4 years. And that is the status quo that we must break. Because it's obvious that people are beginning to search, as they did 8 years ago when Trump was initially came back into office. And again, it's not only under Republicans that this happened. There are moments under Democratic regimes where this also happens, of course. Black Lives Matter happened under the Obama regime, where the videotapes of over and over again of Black people being murdered by the police ignited a fury around the country in Black communities. And so there are going to be these moments where the conditions will help mobilize people the way everyday organizers and activists, as much as, whether we are skilled at our work or not, will not mobilize as much as these overarching conditions. But are we building out the institutions, the apparatus, the organizations, the collectives, so that we can receive these people and not lose these people? That usually becomes the struggle of the left. Because again, and it's not so much it's a struggle that we are always going to win, but if we're not even built to fight in that struggle, then we will always surely lose, because the Democratic Party is here to seize upon those opportunities and to make those opportunities non-opportunities. Because again, they're going to come back in 2 years, they're going to come back in 4 years, and they're going to bring back some other candidate. Whether that candidate is a moderate right-winger or not, they're going to sell that candidate to certain communities as being progressive. They're going to sell that candidate in certain communities as caring about LGBTQ rights. They're going to sell those candidates in certain communities about caring about women or caring about reproductive health. They're going to sell those folks as caring about Black people in some way or another. Doesn't mean they have the policies and they're going to do anything for any of these communities, but they're going to sell them to us like that, even as in other ways, they're going to be selling these same candidates to, again, the Trump communities to be moderate enough for you to move over and push towards. So that is what's going to happen in 2 to 4 years. Are we ready for that? Have we used this time wisely enough to build up the strength and the apparatuses that we need to retain people and to show them, like exactly what you said, that the two-party system is nothing but a one-party system, that both the empire is going to exist whether the Democrats are in office or the Republicans are in office. Oppression against our people are going to exist whether the Democrats are in office or the Republicans in office. But how do we use this time period to show people about the dangers that happen under both parties so that they don't go back playing this switch game that happens every 2 years to 4 years?
Yeah. And I think I think it's consistency, because again, those moments, to your point about sustaining it, because it's fixated on a singular figure, it is moments of opportunism, right? And I say that not necessarily negatively, but to say that this is how organizers and organizations are understanding this, right? But what does it mean to sustain? And I think that's what made the beginning half of that discussion good, because there were people who were showing that, like, right now, PACA is in a struggle for community control, and this is what it looks like, and this is why we're struggling for community control, and this is how we understand that struggle. Right now, Ujima is trying to get on the ballot. PSL just ran independently as a socialist ticket, right? So, but after you hear all this, what does that mean for you, right? You came here because you're sick of it, but you're not really engaged. Here's all these organizations. Here are all these different outlets of media. We have Baltimore Beat. We have obviously Hood Communists and Bar in the room, right? That you can take and tap into. So it was really more so about don't waste these opportunities, because I think you say that a lot, that the organizers have become event planners, right? But in terms of, for me, my bigger question has always been like, what is our objective? And everybody's objective is not going to be the same in terms of all the groups that you work with, but where are the points of unity? Because if you're doing policy work, but I don't engage in policy work, what does your policy work have to do with our campaign? Is there an avenue that we can connect with, right? If you're doing this work over here, where does that connect? How do we build out a stronger front against what's coming? Not necessarily that we all have to be ideologically aligned, but where is that alignment? And I think that's the stage that we're at. Because I'm not interested in antagonisms with other organizations and all those kind of things, especially if there's an understanding by the masses that this is a serious time, right? And that we need to be serious. Certainly there'll be struggles, but I'm not interested in, I'm not going to work with this person because, right? Because I also don't feel like any group that you work with, you have to be led by them. You can bring your own agenda to that coalition. You can come in with your own agenda and say, where can we work? This is what we are trying to do. What are y'all trying to do? Yeah. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that we're at a stage right now, and loosely, I think is what Daruba is speaking to. But, where are these forces being built up? And what is the objective of trying to collectivize these forces? Are we all heading in the same direction?
Yeah. And I think there's some forces that are, relatively speaking, walking in step together, at least that I see or I'm trying to work with, right? And I think one of the big, again, to the last point I was making, for me, one of the big fights that I think the left, the progressive left, the electoral left, the social justice left still needs to have, and maybe it's in a way that's not as non-antagonistic as possible, because there's going to be some antagonisms. One of the things that you do find on today's left is that they can't stand antagonisms. People can't stand to have debate and discussion without everything falling apart, the relationships falling apart, the organizing falling apart. And so when people say criticism, self-criticism, they really can't take criticism, self-criticism. They can take the criticism, but most folks, whether that's organizational or individual, can't take the self-criticism. And so, that's one of the things that's lacking in terms of our struggle, is a strong backbone to understand that critique and criticism is something that can happen and it can be good. I just don't know if I think we're there yet. However, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to happen or it needs to happen. And I say that is that I still think that within the apparatus of those who consider ourselves the left, the idea, again, that that the Democrats or some sort of forestaller or stopgap measure away from fascism, which is nothing than an updated version of the lesser of two evil analysis, right? When people say we get to pick our own enemy, they're saying nothing except they're doing the lesser of two evil analysis. And that moves us nowhere, in my estimation. And so I think that general, larger discussion, debate, argument needs to happen amongst the left, because otherwise what happens again is that the well-funded left, that's still connected to the Democratic Party, they are the ones who go in and grab up the people who are disaffected, and whether they mean to do this or not. Some of them do, maybe some of them don't, maybe some of them feel caught up or they actually believe in the strategy, but they are the ones who then make the people who have now just been radicalized go right back into electoral politics, because then they're going right back to finding that Democrat that looks like them, whether it's going to be Westmore or some other Democrat, and who is going to be, again, there's going to be this, in 4 years, there's going to be this plethora of Democrats for you to choose from, right? And ultimately the party will probably go with the harder right one, but they're going to give you a liberal left. They're going to give you a black person in the primaries. So they're going to give you all these options to go around, where in reality, on the surface, right, it seems like these are really options, but they're not really options, because underneath it all, at the second level, is that they all usually agree around the same policies domestically and internationally around empire building and around maintaining control for capitalist exploitation here at home. So again, I think that, to me, that debate needs to happen. But I completely agree with you. There's enough unity amongst a lot of our different organizations and groups, not uniformity, but unity, that we understand, we have a common understanding of the struggle against the Democratic Party, a common understanding that empire is shifting, but still here, a common understanding that if we don't organize our people and base build in the community, then we will never be strong enough to even put up a real fight, right? There's a top layer of people who become politicized and who are organizers, but that is not enough, right? those people have to be trained more, and those people will be the people who are supposed to be helping us go back into the community to help train more people and help politicize more people and support more people in the fight for power. But we got to dig deep into community. Otherwise, we're always going to lose these battles, because it's going to be our community who goes to the town hall meeting and says, oh, we need more cops here and there. Or, you know, I like this mayor because he comes from this neighborhood, or I like the city council person because they comes from this neighborhood. Those are the struggles and fights we have to really get over. And we can only do that by having trained forces that work together, because none of our forces are big enough by themselves.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of smiling because I told Monty something the other day about giving directives, like handing out tasks, because they were saying, well, you know, I don't want to. I said, well, you can apologize for tone, but you cannot apologize if the work is not done. So, you know, you can always say, my bad, I didn't mean to, you know, get a little rowdy. But if the work ain't done, if the things we're supposed to be doing ain't done, then that's more, you know, because again, a lot of it, and Ajamu does this to me, and I'm like, don't be trying to handle me, Ajamu. So like, you know, Conrad is 80% personality is this, and it's like, it is, especially where I'm at now in the organization, it is a lot of personality management, and then, you know, learning my own patience in terms of what I react to and what I don't react to. But I'm also from Brownsville, and I'm a Trini, and and you know, so sometimes it do be a little but never out of like I'm not mad or anything. It's just like out of a sense of urgency, like, oh, what happened to this thing, you know? And then, you know, again, talk it through. But to your point, I do think there's a way that people do not engage struggle because they assume, like, they approach all struggle as conflict. And not all struggle is conflict. And not all conflict is a struggle. Like, to the point, like, if we don't unite, we don't unite. But we have to at least have that conversation, because for me, I think it's ridiculous to be in a city and 50 organizations are working on policing, and none of these organizations have had a conversation. Right?
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And no wonder nothing has gotten done, because you over here, you over here, you over here, and we're all talking about the same thing, different variations of the same thing, but fundamentally the same thing, and no conversation with one another. And for me, it's like that is the kind of thing that is not sustainable. And that is the kind of thing that will ensure that we will inadvertently prop back up the Democratic Party. There is no sort of interest in, sorry, there's a fly in my room. There is no sort of interest in providing those alternatives in a substantial way, because that is the everyday kind of work. And, you know, I don't know.
And the strategies. And again, like, what are the coherent strategies that, again, if you do policy work, but I do this kind of work, right? So like in Atlanta, I'm probably still like, it's like a fair thing, or the rebel rouser or whatever like that. And so there are my more liberal comrades that I get called in because they want to make a certain presentation. And that may, for me, serve a purpose. I'm not mad at it. I'm not like, don't just use me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, this may serve a purpose. If we think this is going to be able to shift things or get people to do something, then use that. And if you don't need me in the room, and if I'm not useful for something because you think you're trying some strategy, even if I'm not always on the same page of the strategy, I'd rather have you try it, because then you may win and prove me wrong, but you may not get it, and it gets you even angrier, because at least now I'm in your ears. Like, I told you that shit wasn't going to work in the first place, because you go talk to these people, they all the same. We had this point in Cop City stuff where we kept bean counting. We kept counting the city council folks, thinking that they were going to make some switches because they had one conversation with one person, one conversation with another person, and people were counting like, yeah, I think we got them 8 to 7. It's like, really? Like, you know, and it's because they have personal relationships and people were being nice to them, kind of thing. We're like, I'm thinking about this thing. And then when it came down to the vote, it was like a 13-3 whitewash. You know what I mean? And they were angry at it, but it was kind of like, you know, I'm already jaded about the electoral stuff. So at least on that note, it was easier for somebody like me to see it, but because folks deal with that. But I thought that their politics in general are correct on the issue. They're opposed to Cop City, and they just think we can get it done. And so we have to also figure out, or get it done in a certain way, I should say. We should also have to figure out what is the stretch of our politics, right? Right. How are we able to play in different areas and arenas without necessarily thinking somebody's a sellout because they don't always agree with us. They may serve a particular purpose, right? Again, they may not be where you're at, but they may serve a particular purpose. The strategy of organizing is something which we are poor at performing, because at the same time, we may need ideological unity within our organization. It does not mean that outside of the organization, you have a strategy that struggles around people who are not ideologically completely aligned with you, because there may be some larger purposes for it. So again, these large party apparatuses, they do it all the time, right?
Mhm.
Because they're after a singular purpose of empire and power building for themselves. And so they don't have to necessarily agree with everything some particular government does or some particular party does. If it serves their purpose for that particular
Right.
moment, and we don't want to be that, we're not that callous or that whatever about who we work with, but we also have to stretch what we consider to be strategic purposes for people who are similarly minded with us. And we're not just calling folks sellouts because they're not as radical as we may think that they need to be at the time. So I do, again, I think I say all this is I think we're at another important inflection point around what it means to organization build, to potentially the party build, for some version of left unity, but some version of left struggle and strategic purpose. And some of that stuff this is a time now to have those discussions, debates, to have those town halls, to see how many people show up, to see what happens when those folks show up and what we can do with them and how we can keep them and not lose them in 3 or 4 years, because the other side brings back all their guns, all their ammunition. When I say that, I mean all their money, to try to get those people back into saying, we got to get this one person out and replace them with this person who may not have the rhetoric that other person has, but has underneath it all similar policies.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's where I'm at in trying to assess how do we make it through the next 4? Like, what is it that needs to be done, and what is the more comprehensive ways that it needs to be done, and how do we not get swept up in being led by these liberal forces, right? Because they do impact a lot of those spaces, because they come with resources, they come with several staff members. It's a coalition spaces, and they do kind of overwhelm a space. So if you're coming in with a line, and then also that teaches you how do you stick to your line, how do you express your line clearly, how do you hold that line in these kind of spaces. So I think it is important to have a conversation before entering these spaces with your org about what is the objective of joining this coalition, right? That way you don't get led by, and then you can have that coalition potentially win that campaign, and then everybody can go their ways and back in the work that they were doing, right? It's not something that we are married to one another. It is just something that we are doing for the specific purposes, right? And I think that that's really trying to figure that out and trying to assess where we are is really at the stage I think that we need to be now, especially as we're seeing this sort of ramification of this post-elections and how there's a bunch of scrambling. There is right now, admittedly, there's a scramble for the masses. They're like it's like open season, because everybody is like, everybody is every which way right now. There's an inflection point where there's obviously people are fed up, but what they do with that is dependent on us, right? So it is essentially that. And what we decide to do with those spaces really means that there needs to be a collective or a consideration to mapping out objectives that inform those strategies on how do we gather these people.
Yeah, and executing those strategies,
Right.
and even sometimes trial and error with strategies. Like, although I do believe in the concept of scientific socialism, I also believe in trial and error at times. I think that's one of the hugest ways in which you prove something to be true or not true. Is like, get out there in the street, talk to people, learn obviously do some training first, but do your door knocking. Learn how to talk to people when you're standing up in front of them. Learn how to engage with folks. How do you bring them around? What is your follow-up conversation with them to get them to come to the next meeting or the next rally or the next demonstration? What is your follow-up after they come to that? Did you got to get them involved in some organizational work? What is your organization doing that people can actually literally join and take a part in, right? Where's the expertise needed? Like, so all those things are things that, again, I know organizers are constantly trying to think through these things and do them. But I completely agree with you. We're at this pivot point where, it doesn't mean we're close to a revolution. I'm not trying to exaggerate that, but we are in a better position to organize based on what's happened over the last 4 years, particularly the last year and a half, than we have been the prior 2 years. Right? Things are moving fast in the world, and we have to move fast with them as organizers. Yeah. So on that note, I got to make a fast cut because I got a meeting coming up. I want to thank everybody for joining. Ricky, you got anything that you need to promote or talk about before we out?
No, at Run MS from 12 to 3, the students will be talking about the duopoly and how to break the chains, how much impact they actually have on their campuses, etc. So there is, we are trying to attempt to continue these conversations and actually get some movement going. And then also on Saturday is Babsgiving for the Mid-Atlantic region. So I'm excited about that.
Cool. All right, y'all. We're going to see y'all tomorrow. Remix Morning Show. Y'all come out, stay strong, get that work done. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
Remix. 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 Remix.